probably think this weekend is about marriage equality. That's why you signed up, left your weekend plans, your partners, and your family to come here. Sorry, you've spent the last 36 hours at Camp Courage under false pretexts. This is not about gay marriage. What is being launched at Camp Courage is about something bigger, as enormous as history, and you are the force for change. We're in a battle for very high stakes. For decades, our right-wing opponents have used divide and conquer strategies. They have wielded the shield of the culture wars in one hand and the sword of free market fundamentalism on the other. Anyone who didn't have their fair share was told they simply weren't working hard enough. Women were denying their true path in life. Gays were defying God and nature. The people who brought us Prop 8 are the same people who cut taxes on the wealthy to decimate the safety net. They are the people who took California's schools from first to worst in a generation, who have filled our prisons beyond capacity with people whose only crimes are poverty and addiction. Only on page 1. They're the people who have sent to war working-class sons and daughters who have no other path to citizenship, college, or an economic future. These are the people who turned the American economy into a game of chutes and ladders. Ladders for those who could pay to play, chutes for everybody else. Compensation for the top 50 hedge fund managers averaged $588 million each, more than 19,000 times the typical American worker. This, while the middle class evaporates and working poverty and homelessness skyrocket. The American dream is on life support. Although we in the LGBT communities haven't always stopped to realize it, our anger at being denied our equality is shared by millions whose dreams have also been stolen. But now, in this new century, in this brand new Obama era, we have a chance to trump the force that stifles equality and hope for me and you, for the poor, for young people who want to get ahead, and for millions of others. We have a chance, but it's only a chance. And whether or not it succeeds depends on us. It depends on what we do right here at Camp Courage, and what we do tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. On one thing, Rick Warren and I agree. We are at a hinge point in history. It hinges on us. A new spirit has risen in America. We saw it animate hope across the nation last year. Barack Obama was its focus, but he did not create that spirit that catapulted him to power. He tapped into it. Across the country, there is a profound moral hunger for a return to America's higher path toward liberty and justice for all. Last summer, when I dropped my life and joined the Obama campaign as a full-time volunteer, I felt that moral hunger. I felt it as deeply as I did in 1963 when I was 12 and saw those dogs and those fire hoses set on children in Birmingham. I felt it as deeply as when I learned about our government's lies about Vietnam, and I worked nonstop to end that war. As deeply as when I came out as a lesbian at 21 and was kicked out of my family and still knew telling the truth was worth it, and dedicated 20 years to this movement. Last summer, I felt that moral hunger rising again. In 40 years of social activism, I have never seen anything like the intensity and passion of involvement on the part of diverse, everyday Americans that I saw every day in the Obama campaign. I was not a leader. I joined a team who worked 24/7 organizing Latino and African American voter-to-voter outreach, Los Angeles to Nevada. In the LA Obama office, pipe fitters, union members worked side by side with elementary teachers, hotshot young lawyers, retired firemen, Hollywood executives' wives, Mary Kay saleswomen, healthcare professionals, grad students, and high school counselors. A shout out to my team sisters, CG, Bev, Deb, and Angie. Will you stand? Yay! And Marilyn. Where's Marilyn? Marilyn. Yeah, Marilyn's here too. The next generation. We were every color and age, gay and straight and bi and trans. Many had never been involved before, but they were now. And we were all proud community organizers hell-bent on taking back our country. It was an unstoppable and loving uprising. People had taken leave from their jobs, were being supported by prayer groups from their church, wonderful spouses who didn't get to see them for weeks, grandparents from Nebraska who pitched in to pay the rent. I have never seen anything like it. Our motley crew soon formed a bond of mutual mission where political and demographic differences evaporated. Now, I've experienced that kind of egalitarian, empowering social movement culture before in my life as a longtime activist in the 1960s with other young people fighting racism and the Vietnam War. Then in the lesbian feminist community in the 1970s at those magical women's music festivals. Oh, there's a few of you who remember. And then during the agony of AIDS, where gay men and lesbians came together in circled arms around bedsides, at funerals, and in the streets in protest together for the first time in our movement. But I'd never felt a beloved community, in Dr. King's words, with a full spectrum of Americans. At Camp Obama, just like here this weekend, we learned to talk to people who don't agree with us. We learned to listen to them. Respect, empower, include was the living mantra of the campaign. A free and democratic space was created that energized and engaged and changed people forever. From the individual empowerment and the beloved community we created together, we forged a powerful social movement. It was not a political campaign. It was a social movement. In California, the field operation, led by 4,000 super volunteers of 790,000 people, led out of this little office that we were working in, made 10 million phone calls, 16,000 people went to Nevada, 18,000 Californians made 2 million phone calls to battleground states on Election Day alone, and we turned Nevada blue by 12%. Trust me, that was unprecedented in political history. It was thrilling. And we won, boy, did we win. But Barack Obama's election was not the answer. It was the opportunity. It was not the end. It was the opening. We do not yet have liberty and justice for all, but we do have the opportunity to once and for all wash away politics that deny us our humanity and deny others their full place in America. The movement for marriage equality, for LGBT freedom, is one beautiful current in what could be and should be a mighty wave carrying the hope from the campaign forward into real, permanent policy change. But can those currents that came together in November stay together and win equality and opportunity across the country? And will those who leapt into action last fall join us in the LGBT communities in the months and years to come? In 2 months, we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Stonewall riots. I myself love that this movement was born of a riot against police abuse by trans folk. For these 40 years, LGBT activists, and I've been one of them, have pressed for our rights as a single social current, for the most part. We've been superb activists. We have led the most successful civil rights movement of the last 25 years. We built a network of thousands of community organizations to meet our political and social and spiritual dreams. We educated our own community about AIDS when the government refused to act. We won many legal rights across the country, including our right to be safe on the streets and in the schools here in California. We defeated Anita Bryant, John Briggs, Jerry Falwell, and Pat Robertson. We elected our own leaders. We even got our own TV shows. We won laws to protect our right to raise families, to visit our partners, and make decisions for them when they were sick and dying. A mere 9 years ago, civil unions seemed radical in Vermont. 9 years ago. Now it's retro, and we have marriage in 4 states. Were you struck by the fact when Angie told her story today about Iowa, and Iowa electing a black man was her turning point, and we just saw Iowa get marriage equality. I mean, something's happening. But here in California, will we win next time? Yes. All right. Will all of those who can be ready to join us do it? Yes, we can, but only if we continue to transform our movement as we are doing here this weekend. The temptation for us to do what we've done in the past instead of what needs to be done will be strong. But what worked 30 or even 10 years ago is not what's needed now. We cannot carry a single agenda forward anymore and win. The words that galvanized the country last fall were, "Yes, we can." "Si se puede" was a recognition that the time has come to set I aside in favor of we. Yes, we can swept aside the culture of identity politics and its mentality of I want my rights too, or I'm more of a victim than you. This is not what it's about anymore. It's hard to leave what you know, and we need our tribes. The pain of coming out leads us to create alternative family and safe spaces. We build support networks. But sometimes those spaces become just a little too comfortable. We end up talking to ourselves. We isolate ourselves. Prop 8's passage exposed the fault lines and limits of that isolation. It revealed that our established organizations had lost touch with the grassroots. They had become too focused on institution building and forgotten about movement building. Prop 8 revealed that our major organizations had become disconnected from the rising tide of poverty and despair that engulfed our natural allies in communities of color. Prop 8 revealed the ugly racism just under the surface of our successful movement. Prop 8 revealed that our work reaching hearts and minds of California is not yet done. It shocked us. Many of us were living our lives in the false assurance that in most Californian eyes we were equal. We're not. Our work is not done. We needed fresh leadership and fresh thinking. And it's a-coming. To win, we need to change from a culture of mere activism to a culture of organizing, of connecting with others. We need to change from a culture of building individual institutions to a culture of movement building. We need to look in the eyes of those different from ourselves, whoever we are, and find our common heartbeat, our shared belief in the American promise. The call to Fresno for the week of the court decision is a metaphor for this change, I think. Meet in the middle. We need to go where people are, literally and figuratively. That's what organizing does. Meets people where they are and brings them along. As Harvey Milk used to say, we want to recruit you. Because our cause is not fundamentally about economic gain, we lost touch with the economic divide that was smashing to smithereens the American dream over the last 2 decades. And we lost touch with the inescapable web of mutuality between all struggles for equality. The Yes on 8 people beat us at our own game. They built a powerful, multiracial coalition with 100,000 ground troops going door to door. We should have been doing that. But now our fates are linked. Prop 8 showed us we must link arms with others to win, and in the process, we can beat the common enemy that has kept America from her higher purpose for generations. There's always been a well-organized minority on the right who want to stop progress, from the American Revolution and abolitionism and suffrage through the labor movement, the civil rights movement, feminism, environmentalism, and beyond. And the past 3 decades, they have consolidated. They have had more power in the past 30 years than in any time in American history. And they've had vast power to advance their agenda of inequality at home, imperial arrogance abroad, and environmental destruction globally. But Americans rose up this past year, and the spell is broken. Yeah. It is. Now we get to see what we can do with this opportunity in front of us. In California, a majority-minority state, victory for marriage equality at the ballot box is inextricably tied to the success of the new America that we saw flower so brilliantly last year with the Obama campaign. Our equality is linked to a broad commitment to caring for all people, sharing prosperity, providing equal opportunity. This new American movement that is just beginning to emerge from the Obama phenomenon has a set of shared values built around inclusion, mutual responsibility, and connectedness. In this new movement, I becomes we, e pluribus unum, out of many one. Greed is suddenly so yesterday. Yes, we can solve our huge social problems if we face up to them and we all do our part. And we let humanity and sanity reign. Fear is becoming faith once more in America. Let America be America again, as Black gay poet Langston Hughes cried out. Today we face a very simple, very profound choice between inequality and equality, between separateness and connectedness. On the one side are the forces of fear and separation, violence and inequality. On the other side, the forces of responsibility and respect for each other, love for the children and for the earth. We're on the threshold, and I really believe this, and I got good radar after 40 years. We are on the threshold of a new revolution of values that would make unacceptable the kind of economic inequality that has deepened and widened over the last 2 generations for the majority of Americans. And that revolution of values makes injustice against LGBT people also unacceptable. Marriage equality no longer belongs to one community or communities. It's an American justice issue. We're on a new path. There's a new readiness to stand together. We see it as hundreds of Camp Courage trained volunteers knock on doors and tell their stories, and the light of human connection begins to brighten people's eyes. We have alliances and history to build on. In 1979, at the first March in Washington for LGBT rights, 1979, Cesar Chavez from the United Farm Workers stood with us. Dolores Huerta was at Camp Courage in Fresno, his co-founder of the UFW. Just this week, an unprecedented public statement by major immigrants' rights groups, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles and the Central America Resources Center, issued strong support for marriage equality in Vermont and Iowa. A few weeks ago, Julian Bond, an iconic figure of the civil rights movement, riveted a standing room-only audience at the LA Human Rights Campaign dinner as he obliterated every religious argument against marriage equality and reaffirmed the NAACP's unwavering support. That speech, you got to see that speech. If you haven't seen the Julian Bond speech, it's on YouTube. Over the years, we have been there for others as a community as well. In the late 1980s, as the US-backed wars in Central America were destroying millions of lives, even as AIDS decimated us, ACT UP stood strong with refugee organizations. The film Milk showed the importance of the gay community to the Coors labor boycott in the 1970s. And lesbians have been the backbone of the feminist movement for 30 years. There is a deep connection, 500 years, give or take a few centuries. There is a deep connection between human rights struggles and economic opportunity. And this time in history will present us chances as never before to link arms. Today, blending our current with others to form a mighty wave will mean advocating prison reform, marching with immigrants, joining with Obama's grassroots group, OFA, Organizing for America, on health, education, and energy agenda. In fact, in San Diego, I hear there is the best organized OFA chapter, Organizing for America. I think if you go in the 50th CD, they've been doing amazing work on healthcare reform. Go on myBarackObama.com. You can find out about it. It is why Camp Courage is linked to the Courage campaign and not to an LGBT organization. This is a place of progressive change, blending the currents together. Right now, we have an opportunity to stand with the labor movement on their most important issue, passing the Employment Free Choice Act. EFCA would reverse the right-wing anti-labor measures of the past quarter century that make it impossible for workers to have free choice about unionizing. Just this week, I attended an amazing meeting in Los Angeles of hundreds of service and advocacy groups of every stripe learning about EFCA, and I was so proud that among the most eloquent and creative voices were young lesbians of color from Pride at Work talking about a national campaign to link together United ENDA, the LGBT federal job equity bill that includes gender identity as well as sexual orientation, with EFCA, this new effort gaining momentum to deliver organized labor for ENDA and the LGBT movement for EFCA. Now that is fabulous. And that's what's possible in this new Obama era of this new American movement. Indian writer Arundhati Roy says, "Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. I hear her too. At my dinner table when my friend Audrey, friend of 40 years, an African-American woman well into her 70s, tells me how she and her church friends went to work for Obama, but she stood alone against Prop 8. Since Inauguration Day, Audrey told me, something's changed right here. For 40 years since Dr. King was murdered, Audrey and her church friends prayed every single day that a black person would be elected president. They did not expect to see it in their lifetime. They prayed with faith, not hope. Audrey says Barack Obama's victory last November gave her friends more room in their hearts. Now, she says, They're listening better. They're open. They asked to see pictures of the lesbian wedding Audrey attended last October. She promises me they will stand with us next time on marriage. In every culture across time, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered people have been the artists, the creatives, the cultural transformers, the two-spirited ones who bridged cultures, communities, and eras. We are everywhere, and America needs us as we leap together collectively into this wide open opportunity. There is no roadmap for navigating this new historic place America is in. We only have hearts hungry for justice and freedom, hungry for a second American revolution of democracy and patriotic progress. We are co-creating it together. It must continue to grow in strength. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Democracy is rising up. Marriage equality is one of the first issues that is challenging this new era. It is our chance to lead not only our own tribes into the light, but to help the nation finally realize its promise to the world. Seamus Heaney, the great Irish poet and Nobel laureate, wrote, once in a lifetime, that longed for tidal wave of justice can rise up and hope and history rhyme. That's the moment we're in. We are the tidal wave. Rise up with hope to meet history at last. Si se puede. Si se puede.